The Gail Thoma Patterson Award was created in 2011 in memory of our former president of the board, Gail Thoma Patterson, whose life was tragically lost in 2009. Gail Thoma Patterson was a good friend of Preservation Dallas. She was a long-term member and served on the board. She embodied integrity. She never cut corners. She was somebody that saw something from beginning to end, and just somebody that I really looked up to and admired. Gail Thoma Patterson's involvement with Preservation Dallas really started when she and her husband Dan purchased a historic home on Swiss Avenue. And of course, we all know the history of Preservation Dallas and Dorothy Savage and Virginia McAllister. There were others that were involved with Preservation Dallas, and Gail really came in right after all of these efforts to create Swiss Avenue Historic District, and then shortly thereafter Munger Place and South Boulevard Park Row. So the inner cities were expanding. Preservation Dallas was growing as an organization and really branching out. It was more than just about Swiss Avenue, and Gail Thoma Patterson was there really to take Preservation Dallas, expand its efforts and create new initiatives so that it could be an organization that could serve the entire city. So we came up with the idea of creating a special award named in Gail's memory for those projects that really stood above the rest.
I'm Dan Patterson. I am Gail Thoma Patterson's husband, and these are our two kids, Carrie Thoma Patterson and Cody Patterson. They grew up in this house, which is one of Gail's 3 houses that she did a restoration on.
It's incredibly special, and we're incredibly honored to have this award named after my mom. She was very special, and so many of her qualities we see live on in these houses that she restores, and integrity and precision and attention to detail and kindness, preservation of history, and so many of these remarkable qualities live on in these houses, and so it's so special to be able to continue to honor her year after year. And I know that I know she was a very modest person. I know that she wouldn't want us to be doing this probably, but no, it's really special for us to kind of have the opportunity to think back about her during this time in an organization that was so important to her.
No one really owns a historic house. You just borrow it for future generations. And I think that's kind of the feeling I get when I think about the Gail Thoma Patterson Award. It's one of those things that it was a moment in time. She's gone, but it lives on, lives beyond her, beyond us. And it's a legacy that survives. And that it's not even about her. It's about the work. And I think she would really appreciate that. My name is Dan Patterson, and I am here to announce the Gail Thoma Patterson Preservation Award winner for this year. Goes to the Dallas Holocaust Museum for its preservation of the Boxcar. And the Boxcar, as I think you might know, has deep meaning throughout this world as a symbol of the suffering of certain people, and I think it would be very meaningful to Gail that her name was attached to this very significant work. And here is an excerpt from the upcoming documentary about this restoration.
And you'll find that the pieces of the roof slatting in there, they're all numbered.
Yes. So hopefully we can reconstruct that so we're not dragging it. There.
It's a German-built car. It came to Belgium in the 1920s. Belgium was invaded by the Germans. They commandeered all of their rolling stock. They used this car amongst all of those other cars for their own purposes. What we don't know is what that purpose was.
In the 1970s, there were 125 survivors living in the Dallas area. They started meeting and discussing how they could share their testimony with others to educate our community about the Holocaust.
Mike Jacobs, one of the museum's founders, found this boxcar in Belgium, and then the rail car went on an amazing journey by boat and train and truck to get to Dallas. The boxcar was actually taken apart, and they put the boxcar as the entrance to the new Center for Education there in the basement of the Jewish Community Center.
And as far as we know, we are the first museum in the nation that had an authentic World War II era boxcar in our own home. In 2005, they moved us to downtown Dallas so we could reach more families and walk-in visitors, and changed the name to the Dallas Holocaust Museum Center for Education and Tolerance.
They came into a temporary space at 211 North Record Street and struggled to find room in their new temporary space for the boxcar, and made the hard decision to actually separate it into pieces and position only a portion of the boxcar in that new exhibit.
And there we really started to grow. We would see up to 80,000 visitors a year in a tiny 6,000 square foot museum. But it was rented space, it wasn't a permanent home. And so in 2013, we launched the effort to build the Dallas Holocaust and Human Rights Museum.
At that point, the design team had a big question: would it be possible to restore and refurbish and recreate the original boxcar? I sent out an APB. Does anyone know a conservationist who could really do this job? And luckily we found Ron Siebler. And he presented a proposal wherein we would take every piece apart in the museum at 211 Record Street. He laid them all out and then proceeded to work with artisans and historic welders and craftsmen to reconstruct about a third of the boxcar that was missing, and then bring it all back into what was then a completely bare floor in the under construction Dallas Holocaust and Human Rights Museum, and rebuilt the boxcar from scratch.
And I'm proud to say that on September 18th of 2019, we opened the museum to the public. To be able to bring this boxcar back to its original size and shape and form, and have it be the seminal artifact in our new museum, has been such a gift to us and to the community. And so it's very meaningful that Preservation Dallas has recognized Ron's work, and to be recognized with the Gail Thoma Patterson Award is just really incredible. That award represents a group of people in Dallas working to preserve our history. To be in this space, to see visitors walking through, stopping in awe in the boxcar, watching the film, and to see the impact it has on them, it's transformational.